Next on the news.
What happened on Saturday was an act of domestic terrorism.
Outrage and grief nationwide in the wake of a supermarket rampage in Buffalo. This as we learn more about the 10 people killed in the mass shooting. Plus, Pope Francis recognizing a group of 10 new saints. And how a formula shortage is now impacting some church-run food pantries. I'm Christine Persichetti. Current News starts right now. A community in mourning, remembering and praying for the victims of the deadliest shooting in the U.S. this year. 13 people were shot at a Buffalo, New York supermarket. 10 of them died. The FBI investigating the mass shooting as a hate crime. Investigators say the gunman had plans to continue his rampage had he not been stopped.
3 down inside so far, 2 outside, radio.
You got more in here.
10 people killed when a gunman opened fire at a Tops-friendly supermarket in Buffalo, New York.
Everyone started running at that point. I grabbed my daughter. She pulled her arm away from me. I thought she was running behind me. I did not look back.
They escaped. Many others in this predominantly black neighborhood did not. Cops say the 18-year-old suspect, Peyton Gendron, was motivated by hate.
The evidence that we have uncovered so far makes no mistake that this is an absolute racist hate crime. It will be prosecuted as a hate crime. This is someone who has hate in their heart, soul, and mind.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul is calling for stricter gun laws and had a warning for copycat shooters.
You've just picked a fight with 20 million New Yorkers, because we will continue to stand up, because an attack on one is an attack on all. And this was no other way to describe it than white supremacy terrorism. It's racism, it's hatred, and it stops right here in Buffalo.
Others are focusing on social media. The gunman live streamed the shooting on Twitch, and investigators are examining an online manifesto attributed to the suspect filled with racist tirades.
When will the Justice Department aggressively pursue these domestic terrorist cells that are populating on social media platforms?
And the Catholic community is responding. Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan says he's horrified by this senseless act of violence, saying, "Let us pray for an end to hate, violence, and racism in our country and in the world. Pray with me for the families of the victims of this terrible act, that they may feel the love of God and neighbor." Bishop Michael Fisher of the Diocese of Buffalo also issued a statement saying, "On behalf of the Diocese of Buffalo, I, in the strongest of terms, condemn this utterly senseless act and pray for the victims and all those impacted by this act of cowardice." The suspect pleaded not guilty to a first-degree murder charge. He's been placed on suicide watch at the county jail. He'll be back in court on Thursday. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops released a statement on the shooting. It says in part, the U.S. bishops join with others throughout the country in offering prayers for the support and healing of the families, friends, and communities of those impacted by these violent incidents. We pray especially for those who were injured and particularly for those who lost their lives. The statement comes as we're learning more about some of the victims of the supermarket rampage. Hayward Patterson was a deacon at his local church and would frequently give people rides to and from the Tops supermarket. Pearl Young was a 77-year-old mother and grandmother, as well as a key member of her church. For a quarter of a century, the woman of faith fed those in need in the city's Central Park neighborhood. And Catherine "Cat" Massey was an advocate for civil rights and education in her community. A friend of Cat's says the Buffalo community is mourning her passing, especially Cat's brother and sister.
Catherine came from a very close-knit family. In fact, her brother and sister lived in the house next to her, and the house that she lived in was the house she was born and raised in. And so, we're grieving here in Buffalo. We're grieving. We're absolutely devastated. The family, they're in shock, as all of Buffalo and as all of the whole world.
Kat often wrote in 2 local minority papers. Just 1 year ago, she wrote in support of more federal regulation of firearms. Governor Kathy Hochul says $2.8 million will be available to provide support for those affected by the Buffalo shooting. Hochul says the funding will be administered by the State Office of Victim Services. The governor says OVS staff will be in the city this week to help victims and families with financial assistance and to provide critical information. President Biden will travel to Buffalo Tuesday to meet with families of the victims. He spoke out shortly after the shooting.
We must all work together to address the hate that remains a stain on the soul of America.
The president expressed his condolences for the victims during his remarks Sunday at the National Peace Officers Memorial Service. Biden says he also spoke with Governor Hochul by telephone. The NYPD stepping up patrols outside black churches throughout the city in response to the rampage. Mayor Eric Adams will also lead a vigil Monday evening at the Bethel Gospel Assembly Church in Harlem, honoring the victims. He's also expected to call for more changes to gun laws and changes for social media companies. And coming up later on Currents News, a look into the growth of a disturbing theory that's being connected to mass shootings around the world, where it came from and who else believes in it. Coming up on Currents News. On top of the Buffalo rampage, a California community is reeling after a shooting at the Geneva Presbyterian Church in Laguna Woods on Sunday. Police now identifying the suspect as 68-year-old David Chu from Las Vegas. He's being charged with 1 count of felony murder and 5 counts of attempted murder after detectives say he opened fire during a lunch reception to honor the church's former longtime pastor. Police say when the suspect paused to reload, the pastor hit the shooter in the head with a chair while others went to grab his gun. The congregation then held him down and hogtied his legs with extension cords. Right now, there's no motive. As the fallout continues over the leaked Supreme Court document, tens of thousands of pro-abortion activists around the country protested the possible overturning of Roe v. Wade over the weekend. The more than 380 Bands Off Our Bodies demonstrations were organized by Planned Parenthood. At the New York protests, you might notice a familiar face in the crowd. That's City Mayor Eric Adams, who proudly told a cheering crowd in front of Brooklyn's Cadman Plaza, "We stand with everyone fighting to protect reproductive rights." Adams again tweeted his pro-abortion stance when he posted about the rally, saying, "Abortion is health care. It's that simple. And New York City won't let a group of radical extremists take away health care or any human right without a fight." When he was asked later if he believed there should be any limits on abortions, including day of birth, he responded, "No, I do not." Meanwhile, Pope Francis recognized a new set of saints on Sunday. A few notable names among the 10 new saints include Titus Brandsma, a Dutch priest who opposed Nazi propaganda in Catholic newspapers, Maria Francesca, a 19th century missionary who crossed the Atlantic Ocean 7 times, and César de Bus, a French Catholic priest who founded 2 religious congregations in the 16th century. Also joining the communion of saints is French priest Charles de Fukow, the man considered to be the pioneer of interreligious dialogue. Justin McClellan has more on the astonishing impact of Foucault's mission and the miracle that paved the way for his canonization.
Charles de Foucauld was a French priest who abandoned a life of wealth to live in the Algerian desert with the local community. Although he lived on the margins of society for most of his priestly ministry, today some 20 congregations and other religious groups have taken inspiration from his life and spirituality. That's because despite living among the most poor and neglected, he maintained close ties to communities in France and elsewhere who learned from his example.
Pensiamo che fosse un eremita.
We tend to think that he was a hermit, that he didn't see anyone, and that doesn't match with the reality. We have thousands and thousands of letters from Charles de Foucauld, who had a whole network of correspondence, and this explains, in part, how only 10 years after his death, the application to begin his canonization was opened. Since most miracles leading to canonizations are miraculous healings, Father Bernard says that the second miracle attributed to de Foucault's intercession was quite unusual. It entailed an unbaptized 21-year-old construction worker named Charles, who fell over 50 feet while working on the roof of a chapel in 2016. The incident took place in the town where de Foucauld once lived, on the eve of the 100th anniversary of his death. Doctors said there was no medical way to explain how he survived.
Con questa coincidenza
With this coincidence of the timing, the place, and this young man, who is named Charles and is not baptized, we recognize that this grace, this miracle, was from God through the intercession of Blessed Charles de Fukow, who with this will be proclaimed a saint. Although de Fukow died more than 100 years ago, Father Bernard says the example of his life, engaging with people of other faiths and tending to those who are neglected, remains relevant today.
Charles de Fukow
Charles de Fukow teaches us that we must have our hearts and minds very open to everyone, but also that to have a dialogue with life, our Christian identity must be strong. A revolutionary in his own way, Charles de Foucaw's life shows that sainthood can be found anywhere, even in the desert.
That was Justin McClellan reporting. Following the canonization mass, Pope Francis said the lives of France's newest saints can inspire young people to persevere through difficulties and trying times. There's a lot more news headed your way. It's a fringe belief that's being fostered online. Next, how replacement theory is being linked to mass shootings here in the U.S. and around the world. Sweden makes a critical decision when it comes to joining NATO after more than 2 centuries of neutrality. And U.S. lawmakers moving closer to approving a new aid package for Ukraine. Shock and grief gripping Buffalo and the rest of the nation following the deadly mass shooting. Police in the city say the gunman was fixated on the so-called replacement theory, an idea that white people are being intentionally replaced by minorities and immigrants. And as Sunlin Sarfati reports, this conspiracy theory has already inspired several mass shootings.
What was once a fringe white supremacist conspiracy theory has now become mainstream.
Jews will not replace us! We know what the Democrats are up to here. They want open borders. This is exactly their strategy. They want to replace the American electorate.
With a growing number of Republican lawmakers now openly promoting the far-right so-called Great Replacement theory.
For many Americans, what seems to be happening, or what they believe right now is happening, is what appears to them is we're replacing national-born American, native-born Americans to permanently transform the political landscape of this very nation.
The racist anti-immigrant theory that says non-white immigrants are being brought to replace America's white population.
This administration wants complete open borders, and you have to ask yourself why. Is it really they want to remake the demographics of America?
The white nationalist conspiracy theory is detailed in French writer Renaud Camus' 2011 book called The Great Replacement. And elements of replacement theory appear to have motivated some of the most heinous recent mass murders in the U.S. and around the world. The gunman accused of killing more than 20 people at an El Paso Walmart in 2019 allegedly uploaded a document on the internet before the shooting, saying, quote, "This attack is a response to the Hispanic invasion of Texas. They are the instigators, not me. I am simply defending my country from cultural and ethnic replacement brought on by the invasion." The man who allegedly killed 11 people at a Pittsburgh synagogue in 2018 spouted nonsense on social media about Jewish people being somehow responsible for immigrant, quote, invaders. And the shooter who killed 51 people at a mosque and Islamic center in Christchurch, New Zealand, named his own manifesto the Great Replacement.
That was Sunlin Sarfati reporting. The theory has been amplified on several conservative media outlets and has been openly defended by name by sitting members of Congress.
Russia's war in Ukraine is not going as Moscow had planned.
The Secretary General of NATO announcing that Russia is not achieving its strategic objectives in the war and that Ukraine could win the conflict. This comes as Sweden ended its neutrality and joined Finland in seeking NATO membership. Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson made the announcement Monday as she addressed lawmakers in the capital of Stockholm. It's a historic shift that comes after more than 200 years of military neutrality for Sweden, and the move is likely to upset Moscow and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Support in Finland for joining NATO has soared since Russia invaded Ukraine. Nick Robertson visited the nation's closest city to Russia and spoke to locals there about their fears.
It looks calm, yet below here, the biggest geopolitical realignment in a generation is taking place. Once tepid support for NATO rocketed as Russia invaded Ukraine, from 1/3 to over 2/3 in a matter of weeks.
NATO, of course, NATO.
Excellent choice, because we need now protection, and it's the best available.
Joining NATO would be that gate to us, that no one would invade us.
At the last Finnish cafe, before the Helsinki to Moscow transcontinental rail line crosses to Russia, security, not trade, is top priority, despite new EU sanctions on Russia halving business.
If you know our common history with Russia, we were in a similar situation back in the 30s. And I think it would be really naive and foolish of us to remain neutral when we have this much historical background to learn from.
At the local ice hockey rink, many of the pros practicing sport Ukrainian flags on their helmets. Sympathies are strong, similarities easy to imagine.
It's natural to bring in the mind that what could happen because we're so close.
Captain Koskiranta's focus, keep his team's head in the game. NATO membership, he says, should help.
I hope it will bring more like we can a little bit relax and just try to enjoy our lives like we have been enjoying so far.
At the official road crossing, one of the few places Russians can legally enter Finland, traffic is 1/10 what it was 2 years ago, and no apparent cross-border threat. The reverse even. This young Russian seeking Finland's safety, an escape from Putin's war.
I think I will never come back to Russia.
Nick Robertson on the Finnish-Russian border.
A $40 billion aid package for Ukraine is edging closer to approval, but the funds were temporarily stalled in the Senate due to an objection from Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Despite this, the legislation has been approved overwhelmingly by the House and has strong bipartisan support in the Senate. If it passes, the measure would push American aid to Ukraine well above $50 billion. Still to come on Currents News, the baby formula shortage continues to grip the nation, how it's impacting Catholic food banks. And a joke from the Pope goes viral on TikTok, the secret remedy the Holy Father wants to use to get through his knee pain. The short supply of baby formula is hitting home at a number of food pantries across the nation, including those operated by the Catholic Church. In the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, both clients and staff at their food pantries say they've noticed a shortage in baby formula. And in Virginia, the Diocese of Arlington has been offering their limited supply to a Catholic Charities medical clinic before their food bank. Texas is one state seeing the worst of the shortage. In Houston, hundreds of moms lined up for a free baby formula drive hosted by the National Association of Christian Churches. The formula was designated for use during a natural disaster, but the organization passed it out to parents who have been desperately searching for it. Congress plans to address the shortage in a hearing later this month. One mom who knows all about the formula shortage will look very familiar to you. Currents News reporter Jessica Easthope is out on maternity leave, but she's still working in her new job as a mommy. I asked Jess about the shortage and how her first month of motherhood has been.
It's been absolutely incredible. The biggest blessing we've ever been given. Obviously, we're still navigating our way through the first few weeks with a newborn, getting feeding and sleeping under control, but everything's been incredible.
All right, I can't take it with that bow. She is so adorable. Every picture you send, and now just seeing her now, she's precious. All right, we also hear she has quite a personality and a fondness for music. So let's show everyone this quick video you sent us.
Aw, V. Okay, Daddy, play your first concert of the day.
Your favorite! So, Jess, what's going on here?
Yeah, she is definitely very sassy. I swear I don't know where she gets it from. But she loves music to death. Her godfather, excuse me, my brother Nick, got her, is a musician and got her a few instruments as his first gift to her. And they have become the backbone of our household. They go everywhere with us, to every changing, every feeding, because as you can see in that video, the second that she hears them, she stops crying, she pays attention, she loves music, and we're hoping that that continues throughout her life.
Absolutely. Anything you could do to keep her quiet and calm, right? You'll stand on your head. So it's kind of like you're an old pro now. Tell us, what's the biggest lesson you've learned so far as a first-time mom?
I have to say, honestly, Christine, that, I'm sure you can relate to this too as a mom of 3 boys. You really just have to get back to basics. I think as a first-time mom, it was easy for me to fall into believing that I needed the best of everything, the most high-tech bassinet and the best high chair and the most amazing changing table. But you realize very early on that all a baby needs is your love and attention and care and concern, and it's the stuff that you're born with as a mom, and that I had the whole time. So I think that the biggest lesson I've learned is get back to basics and do what comes naturally to you and just love the baby.
Absolutely, and I love her little pose there. She's like posing for us. All right, now I want to talk to you about the national formula shortage. Unfortunately, I know you're breastfeeding, but what are the concerns you've heard about this from other moms?
Yeah, like you said, I've been lucky enough to be able to breastfeed Violet, which I know is, even I've gone through my own challenges with it. And for every young mom I've spoken to, it's been a challenge for them. So we haven't been directly affected by the formula shortage as of yet. And I'm hoping by the time that we need it to supplement, it's over. I'm hearing that mid-June is when a lot of companies are going to get their stocks back up. But, it really is absolutely devastating to hear about moms, even in our own area in New York City, getting scammed by people, feeling so desperate to just want to feed your baby that most essential need in life, and not having what you need. And I will say, though, that for every one of those horror stories I hear in the mom groups that I'm on social media, you hear 5 amazing stories of women shipping formula for free across the country to other women they've never met. And so the support has been amazing, and hopefully as moms across the country, that will get us through until, a lot of companies have their stocks back up again.
Oh, it's so nice to hear. And before we go, when will Violet be baptized?
Yes, so Violet is going to be baptized this summer, actually by Monsignor David Casado at St. Athanasius, and we're so excited that he'll be able to do that for us, and I'm sure it'll be an amazing day, and we're just really excited to bring her into the faith.
Absolutely, and I cannot wait to see pictures of her in her little christening gown. Jessica Easthope, Violet's mom, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Say bye.
She's such an angel. All right, finally tonight, it's no secret the Holy Father has been having knee problems. Recently, he's been using a wheelchair and getting a helping hand walking during masses and Vatican events. But in a new video gone viral, we now know Pope Francis is laughing through the pain. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, that was the Pope saying that what he really needs for his knee problems, a bit of tequila. The video was posted on TikTok by a Mexican seminarian who had thanked the Holy Father for continuing to be outside with the faithful despite his knee problems. The video currently has more than 226,000 likes on TikTok. Who knew he was such a jokester? And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.